Welcome to CyberSecurity Awareness TV, episode 387, recorded March 5th, 2022. My name is Mac Jackson Jr. I'm a cybersecurity consultant and researcher. If this is the first time you've seen our show, my show is about cybersecurity awareness education, news, interviews, and tips that you could use today to protect yourself from the fastest growing crime of the 21st century, and that's cyber attacks, folks, and cyber crimes. I would like to thank all of our viewers who have been with our show here for the last several years on CyberSecurity Awareness TV, bringing information to you about cyber threats and how to protect yourself, your family, and your business. From viewers like you from around the world have listened to CyberSecurity Awareness TV and followed my show. If you'd like to find out more information about my services and my company, you can go to my website at macjacksonjr.com. That's macjacksonjr.com. And check out my company at Vanderson Cyber Group. That's Vanderson Cyber Group. And remember, folks, I'm on social media, so remember to share, like, subscribe, and hit that notification button when you see our show. And by the way, you could also find us on the Roku network under WWDB TV, Roku streaming as well. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the ongoing war going on right now overseas between Russia and Ukraine. The cyber attacks there, folks, you're thinking they're 3,000 miles away on the other side of the world. It may not affect you. Well, folks, these stories we have for you today will show you that, yes, it will affect you here in the homeland here in the U.S. In our second segment, we'll then continue our discussion on job scams that are going on regarding cybersecurity and cyber threats that can affect you. And this is on the rise, folks. It's a really interesting story and research we found regarding these particular type of scams involving your employment. Amazing. In our third segment, as we do every week, we talk about things that you could do to protect yourself from these cyber threats, tips and techniques that you could do at home today with your business, folks. It's very important that you pay attention and take this information and share it with people that you know. But in our first segment, the U.S. Cyber Attack Division has reported an increasing alarm of cyber threats coming from overseas. And of course, this has happened because of the attacks that are going on between Russia and the Ukraine. The Russian government continues to use their military weapons to attack the Ukrainian people. These attacks have been incredible and have caused lots of carnage and damage to the people of Ukraine. Now, this is on the war type of attack using weaponry. But folks, the hackers there on the Russian side are also in a cyber war, and this is worldwide, not just between Russia, the U.S., or the Western states in Russia. These are other nation states and their cyber groups that are involved within these nation states that are attacking our homeland. But we folks our U.S. government also are counterattacking them as well. As we have stated on the show several months ago, there was a huge cyber attack that affected the east coast of the U.S. It affected the Colonial Pipeline. This attack caused the gas pipelines to be down for several days unless ransom was paid to these Russian hackers. Fortunately, they were caught and the monies were paid back. But this is just a shot across the bow, folks, over on our side of the pond from a nation state causing a cyber attack with us. But yes, we're hitting them back as well. If nation states were to try, and this is information that I have obtained from our cyber research team and our U.S. government, if nation states were to attack our infrastructure here in the U.S., our country and our U.S. cyber team will definitely strike back and shutting down their infrastructure as well. Again, folks, it's like what we had in the 50s with nuclear war. If one country launches a nuclear attack, other countries will counterattack back. It's the same when it comes to cyber as well. So then the question, folks, we have is, how can these events in Ukraine affect you here in the U.S.? It affects you here in the U.S., folks, because of one word, cyber war. The cyber war has been going on for years. And what does this mean? Social media. That's one of the new platforms now that has been an element of the cyber war, where your Twitter, Facebook, Instagram accounts have all been sent to you with information that has been disinformation. It's not correct. This is fake information sent to you by our nation states that are trying to make you think politically a certain way that's not true. You could see it looking at some of these Facebook posts. You can also see it in social media. And now with video, using a technique called deep fakes, where you're looking at a video of a politician or information coming from one of the nation states, and it's totally fabricated and fake, folks. They even set it up where the actual correspondents are not even real. These are things that we need to be aware of. And the biggest one, folks, is malware and ransomware attacks. Now that Russia and the oligarchs that are connected with Russia are having their assets seized by the West, they're needing to find a way to have their monies available to them. And they are turning towards cyber cryptocurrency. And now a lot of the cryptocurrency companies are cutting back as well and not allowing them even to convert their dollars or rubles into cryptocurrency. So folks, there's a lot of things that are going on right now, and the reason we are telling you this story that you need to be aware and things that you could do to protect yourself and your family from these type of cyber attacks. The former head of Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency discusses the U.S. organization's things that they need to do and individuals what they need to do to protect themselves from these types of cyber threats. Here's a clip from CBS News from the former director of CISA regarding U.S. Homeland Security. Run this clip.
There are new warnings today of destructive Russian malware targeting organizations in Ukraine. Experts say that country has long served as a testing ground for Russian cyber attacks. But since Russia invaded, the battle in the cyber realm has not matched the intensity of the fighting on the ground. Now, that has been very surprising to some of Ukraine's allies. Chris Krebs is CBS News cybersecurity expert and analyst. He's also former head of the cybersecurity for the Department of Homeland Security. That's probably why you recognize him, because he was on TV a lot back in the day. Chris Krebs, it's really good to see you this morning. You know, people thought there would be this massive cybersecurity attack. It has not happened yet. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, good morning, and thanks for having me on. Yeah, I think the folks I've talked to, my own opinion, it is somewhat surprising that we did not see more activity in the preparatory stages of the Russian invasion. And that's frankly where cyber attacks are most useful. It's in the gray zone. It's before you have actual kinetic troops on the ground. In part, it may have been, and this is the opinion of others, and I tend to share it, is that the Russian strategy was based on speed, and they depended on Ukrainians to surrender. And so attacking infrastructure, bringing it down, and then having to rebuild it would not have been in the strategic interest of the Russians. And so, you know, perhaps they miscalculated here. But what it has allowed is, given the fact that the telecommunications networks are up, the Ukrainians have been able to really own the information space, and they own the narratives. The iconic images of the last 4 or 5 days all belong to the Ukrainians, and certainly not the Russians.
Chris, can you talk about what the Russians are capable of when it comes to cyber attacks and the damage that that could cause and would cause?
Well, the Russians are very capable. They've launched a number of attacks in Ukraine previously, 2015 and 2016. They took down the electrical grid. 2017, they launched a destructive global attack known as NotPetya that caused 200 to 300 billion dollars in damage. So they are quite capable. They also host and provide safe harbor to cyber criminals, ransomware gangs. And so as I think we look forward, the potential is continued espionage campaigns against global governments, but as well as perhaps enabling ransomware actors to go after American businesses and Western businesses. And I'd point out that as the sanctions continue to lay waste to the Russian economy, it may become an economic necessity for ransomware actors to strike out and bring in revenue or money back into Russia.
So, Chris, you mentioned the potential for strikes here in the U.S. Putin has made very clear that he sees America as the ultimate villain in this fight. So I would expect a cyber attack could come here. What are the risks on that front, and what can everyday Americans do if they want to secure, say, their bank account or their retirement account?
Well, I think the general level of risk is still fairly low, absent any direct engagement between the U.S. and the Russians. And I'm talking between Russian security service forces. However, the U.S. government has been engaged with the critical infrastructure community, the banks, the energy companies, for quite some time. I'm talking months, and specific to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, to increase the level of resilience. 100% security is never really the objective. It's not effective, and so they've been identifying those critical aspects of the industry to ensure that they can respond effectively to any sort of attack. Now, individuals, keep your devices updated. For your bank accounts or other sensitive accounts, make sure you have multi-factor authentication enabled, and that's where you either take an email or some other sort of communication, including an application, an authenticating application, to ensure that it's you logging into that device. The last thing I'd point out, Tony, is that be on the lookout for scams and grifters. Just like any other tragic event, there are those that try to profit off of it. So keep an eye on those emails, those text messages, those phone calls that come in and ask for donations. Make sure you vet who is asking for money before you donate.
Chris, the U.S. and Ukraine's other Western allies have offensive cyber weapons. What does that look like exactly?
Well, the U.S. and a number of our European allies are as good, if not better, than anyone else out there. So I think what you would be seeing probably right now is activities to ensure that the Russians cannot launch offensive cyber action. So it's more playing offense for better defense. So going after their servers and command and control infrastructure, as it's known, to ensure that they can't launch anything here, kind of putting sand in their gears to make it harder to operate. Also looking at some of the disinformation operations that the Russians may be using to launder their narratives and push their propaganda, to make sure that those don't get out of Russia and taint the airwaves.
We are all on high alert. Chris, thank you.
As Chris Krebs discussed, folks, in this clip, U.S. organizations and individuals must be proactive in their cybersecurity awareness. And there are techniques that they can do to protect themselves. And continue listening to this program, folks. We'll go over a lot of these other additional techniques you can do to protect yourselves, folks, from these types of cyber attacks. Now, these scammers are very vigilant. They're always finding ways to attack individuals. Now, again, like the former director discussed, if Russia cannot find ways of making money and having cash, they need to find a way to get cash. And using ransomware would be a way to do it by attacking U.S. businesses with ransomware attacks, having these sort of their agents doing this kind of malicious activities. I have a clip here from the Associated Press I want to show you discussing what the cyber war is and how it affects you with the war that's going on in Ukraine. Here's a clip.
The notorious hacking group Anonymous has declared war on Russia and is targeting Russian websites. The group that has also targeted U.S. sites in the past now says Putin's regime is fair game. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Tom Costello. Tom, what more can you tell us?
Well, for years, the U.S. has accused the Russian government of cyber attacks, sometimes working alongside Russian cyber criminals. But now Russia is in the crosshairs. And before you celebrate, think about how quickly this could snowball into an all-out global cyber war.
This is a message to Vladimir Putin from Anonymous.
The group calls itself Anonymous. Unaffiliated hackers around the world now putting Russia in the crosshairs.
Members of Anonymous have declared cyber war against your aggressive regime.
They claim they've already targeted more than 1,500 Russian websites, including Kremlin-controlled news agencies, the Ministry of Defense and Space Agency, Russian oil companies, internet providers, even TV channels.
Their call to fight in the cyberspace has resulted in a lot of websites not being available, some websites going down, and a lot of records, Russian government, Russian military records being dumped out onto the internet.
U.S. officials confirm they've seen evidence of the anonymous hacks after Russia launched a cyber and ground offensive against Ukraine.
But the real risk to Russia long term is the canceling of their access to internet infrastructure as private sector companies decide that they're going to delist or no longer carry their traffic.
Cutting off Russia from the world would also deprive everyday Russians of access to outside news and information. And cyber pros worry Russia may view the anonymous hacks as Western attacks and target U.S. government and company sites. U.S. Cybersecurity Director Jen Easterly.
How at risk is the average American or that very small business owner?
Everybody's at risk, which is why at the end of the day, they need to take the steps to protect their systems, their networks, and their data. This can happen to anyone. There is no one that is immune from potentially getting hacked.
The cybersecurity basics: never click on suspicious emails or links, use complicated passwords, and multi-step authentication. Back up your computers and keep security software up to date.
This basically ensures that he can log in even when the password is changed.
Israeli firm CyberBit uses real-world attacks to train American companies to defend themselves.
The questions organizations need to ask themselves is not if they are going to be hit, but when they are going to be hit.
As for Anonymous, now targeting Russia.
We are anonymous. We are Legion. Expect us.
Russia has always been perceived as the cyber attacker, and now they're on the receiving end.
Instead of always being on offense, they also got to be on defense. And that really lowers their capability in some ways to also do attacks.
Yeah, that's the concern here. The cyber battlefield seems to be expanding by the day. You know, we've already seen U.S. oil pipelines, food supplies, hospitals, banks attacked in recent years. Experts say they could be targeted again, but also electric grids, dams, water systems. Everything is a potential target right now. By the way, the U.S. Cybersecurity Agency, if you're a small business or just a typical American family, they have great resources online how to protect yourself.
Yes, folks, if you've been watching the news, I have breaking news for you as well. The Russian military has also launched a missile that has struck the largest nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Now, supposedly there's a fire that started there, and the fire may be put out about at this time. But this can be very devastating, folks. This nuclear power plant is the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. And if it is struck, it's close to the Russian border. Experts have stated that if this plant melts down and there was a nuclear cloud that has come from this particular plant, the cloud itself would be able to carry nuclear radiation that would kill people in the Ukraine as well as Russia. That's right, folks, because the cloud would float and drift over eastward towards Russia. It doesn't make sense, folks, what's going on there and why this devastation is happening. And you think how it can affect us? Well, the nuclear cloud, folks, doesn't stop at the border. It will continue. And now our whole northern hemisphere can be threatened by this type of attack. We must stay vigilant and aware of this type of activity. As we continue, Russia has also organized gangs of hackers. There are soldiers in the cyber war. However, the Western folks, Western civilization, democracies have also have their significant group of cyber hackers and white hat hackers that are on the ready and have used offensive techniques in protecting our homeland from these types of cyber threats and cyber attacks. Our research has found that a group of cyber hackers from Russia has been involved in this type of cyber attack, and we have a clip for you to show you regarding their activity. Here's this clip now.
If a country is going to be attacked and they're going to try to fight back, they will use the internet as a vector. You're going to use it to spread your so again, the sort of information narratives that Ukraine is trying to spread as a country, as well as going right back at Russia. There is a whole Ukrainian hacker community, as in sort of criminal hacking, that is we've tracked for years at Recorded Future. A lot of them, the people we call Russian cyber criminals, in many cases are Ukrainian cyber criminals. And so there are plenty of resources to draw from. So when SBU came out and said, look, we want to create a IT army here, pretty genius. And then being able to sort of crowdsource that activity towards Russia, very genius. I won't know whether these guys or somebody else found the database of those supposed 120,000 soldiers that are in Ukraine and leaked that to Ukrainska Pravda. But again, it's one of these where it may not matter the fact that whether that's right or not, because those names, that database is flowing around in Russia right now. You can guarantee a lot of mothers are going to be looking for their sons' names in that and basically create trouble for Putin on the home front. Ukrainians are good at this. They happen to have a president who is a comedian, somebody who understands TV, which is powerful, as we know, and so understanding that sort of world is very good too. So they've done some superb, call it trolling here. You know, when that supposed murder attempt on Zelensky a couple of days ago, when the SBU came out and said, not only did we stop it, but we also believe we stopped it because we got a tip from the FSB. You know, that's pretty damn superb, because, you know, it doesn't really matter whether it was a tip or not. This is going to get now the FSB, which has a vast counterintelligence department, to just put a full stop to the whole thing. You know, like it's going to, you know, create havoc inside. It is pretty wild, we'll call it that. Pretty wild to see hacktivism back with a vengeance here and going straight at Putin and his disciples.
I tell you, folks, cybersecurity awareness is definitely what we need to protect ourselves and mitigate some of these risks of cyber attacks. As these videos have stated, there are groups like Anonymous and other cyber gangs, cyber groups around the world that are striking back. Now, again, these gangs that are cyber hackers are not connected with our federal government. Like in Russia, they have gangs of hackers that are not connected with the Russian government. However, these gangs that are doing these type of cyber attacks can be devastating to both sides, because we're not sure where the attacks will come from. If an attack came from here in the US to strike something over in Russia, will the Russians in turn strike back? And how we know it wasn't a gang from Russia themselves that tries to implicate the US in this type of cyber attack. Folks, we must stay vigilant, stay strong, and stay aware of what's going on. Stay proactive. To find out more about this, definitely contact my company, MacJacksonJr.com and Venderson Cyber Group. And remember, folks, #stay cyberwoke. We'll be back after these messages.
You can help limit the damage from identity theft with some quick responses. Placing a fraud alert on your credit reports, filing a complaint with the FTC, and then filing a police report. Taking these steps will give you some important tools to deal with other problems that may come up, like charges you didn't authorize on your credit card, phone, or utility bills, like ATM withdrawals or debit card purchases you didn't approve, like getting a letter from the IRS saying someone has filed for a tax refund in your name. Keep records of your calls and copies of documents. If these problems do come up later, you'll have the necessary tools close at hand. For more tips and tools on dealing with identity theft, visit ftc.gov/ID theft. That's ftc.gov/ID theft.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to CyberSecurity Awareness TV. I'm your host, Matt Jackson Jr. In this segment, we're discussing cyber scams. Cyber scams, folks. We've talked on this show countless times about scams you should watch out for. We've given you clips from the FBI and other law enforcement agencies regarding these types of scams. But folks, there's a big scam that's going on right now, and that has to do with employment. That's right. You're online, you're trying to find a job, and next thing you know, you'll get this email from a company that's trying to look legitimate, like they've come from a recruiting agency. And it turns out that this company is not who they say they are. And these scams are asking you for additional information about yourself. They want to set you up with interviews about yourself. They want you to give information such as your name, phone number, social security number, your age, information we talk about in the show, folks, call your personal identifiable information, PII. And then they will set up a job interview for you. Folks, don't rely on these companies. A lot of this stuff is fake. They can also do things like send you a check in the mail, so-called to cover some of your costs. It could be for $10, but on that back of that check, you're going to write your names, your signature, and it's going to go through your bank. When the check comes back to them, they'll have your bank information as well, folks. A big scam. Things like this you should need to watch out for. And there's an investigation report I want to show you that's come through from CBS News regarding these types of scams. Definitely check us out. We'll talk about it when we come back.
That's exactly right, Bo. We often report that people over 65 are most vulnerable to being conned, but It's more younger people who fall victim to work scams. There are a number of scams aimed at those seeking jobs, and many involve identity theft and payments using fake checks. The contact is primarily made by either email or text message. Victims report that they have applied for several jobs online and thus often believe that the contact is the result of those online efforts. Around East Tennessee, around the country, you see signs for job openings everywhere. And with more people currently wanting to work from home, the door is open to even more job scams. Experts report that scammers post fake online job listings, and it's those job seekers who are targeted. The Better Business Bureau reports that an estimated 14 million people are exposed to employment scams every year. The average loss is $1,000, and $2 billion is lost annually nationwide. Here's Tony Binkley.
So it's a heat map of all the different scams in different parts of the country.
When the BBB president zeroes in on East Tennessee, more than 7,000 scams have been reported. And just this month, bogus online purchase scams are spiking. But one of the largest dollar losses was a job scam.
They got a Facebook ad, a 9-to-5 job that said they could make over $10,000 a month. And they ended up losing $9,800.
How do you go about avoid falling for one of these fake job sites?
So if you see a job offer, the best thing to do is try to go to the company's website and confirm that that job offer is real. Even some of the most famous job sites that are out there, Indeed and things like that, are reporting a lot of scams from their site. So you just got to make sure that this job is real before you start giving out personal information.
A recent survey found that women accounted for nearly 67% of job scam complaints. The age group most targeted at 28% are those between 25 and 34, 22% are age 35 to 44, and 17% are between 18 and 24.
Our studies show that like 30% of the people, and sometimes as high as 50%, give out their driver's license and social security numbers to people they don't even know. And that's all they want. They want that, and if they get that, they get access to your account.
The Better Business Bureau has a site called Scam Tracker. That's where the BBB collects information where you can report scams.
And a lot of this stuff really, truly is organized crime. It's organized crime from West Africa. It's been well documented. I mean, this is real stuff. It's not somebody just trying to get a few $100s. This is organizations that are trying to get thousands of dollars from you.
Now, in that BBB report, the largest number of victims believe that they were being hired by some of the country's biggest companies like Walmart and Amazon. Amazon states it has warnings about job scams using its name. Amazon says it posts all job opportunities at Amazon Jobs and does not require anyone to purchase any equipment or pay initiation fees. Walmart reports that all jobs it has available can be checked out at its website and advises any job seeker to only trust emails that are from Walmart.com. If you are suspicious of any online job offer, go to either Google or Scam Tracker and check it out.
Boy, it's amazing, folks, these type of job scams that are out there. But you can do something about it, and definitely stay proactive, folks. If you suspect any sort of fictitious information you received or email that you didn't request for someone, definitely don't click on a link to respond back. Go to the company's website, like it stated in the clip. Go to the company's website, check them out, make sure that they are a legitimate company, and don't send them any money or even accept any money for them as an incentive to get your information, folks. It's not necessary. So definitely do your due diligence and check it out before you click on that link. So definitely stay cyber aware and cyber vigilant. Folks, we'll be right back with our segment 3 on what you can do to protect yourself from these type of cyber attacks. See you then. Hi, folks. I would like to welcome Ben Bowie from MyNiceTie.com as one of our newest sponsors for CyberSecurity Awareness TV. At MyNiceTie.com, they provide and are committed to providing classy neckties for the business community. At MyNiceTie.com, their motto is Wise Up, Suit Up, and Stand Up. You can find nice ties like the one I'm wearing now at MyNiceTies.com. Hey folks, welcome back to CyberSecurity Awareness TV. I'm your host, Mac Jackson Jr. Here in this segment, folks, we talk about cybersecurity tips that you could use to protect yourself or your family from the fastest growing crimes of the 21st century. And of course, folks, every week we talk about these tips because I really want to make sure that it gets home to you and what we need to do to protect yourselves. I'd like you guys also to take this information I've given you and share it with a friend. Let other people know. The more people that are aware of this, the harder it is for hackers to take and get our information to exploit us, folks. And again, first thing, it starts off with the password. You must maintain a strong password. And I know that's hard to do. I have clients and customers and students as well. We're at a university where I teach, and they always tell me that they can't remember all these passwords, and it's hard to change it every 60 days. You got to change your password. They'll write them down and stick them notes. They'll stick them on their computer systems so they don't forget it. Folks, you need to come up with a passphrase that's something that you can understand, something that you believe in, something that is of value to you. And then make some modifications to that passphrase every 60 to 90 days. That's one of the best ways. But there's a way that you should create that password, folks. Find out more about that. Definitely go to my website or contact me, and we'll talk about how you can make yourself a stronger password for you and your family. Because in most households, you're going to have people that are 5-year-olds logging onto your system to 90-year-olds logging onto your system. And you should have a password that your family could use that's understandable as well, so they're not stuck trying to have some simple password. The passwords I've seen, folks, even after all the shows that we've done and we've talked to people about, are still there. Folks, I have clients that are using the word password backwards, and they think that's a stable password. The second most popular one is 123456. Really? That's a password? Because people don't want to be inconvenienced by trying to remember how to log in their computer system all the time. This is causing hackers a dream world of vulnerability, of being able to get into your system. You need to have a password that is hard for them to remember. And that's one of the ways you can do it, is creating one with a passphrase. So find out more about that. Definitely contact me as well. The next thing I want to tell you about, folks, is making sure you have antivirus software. Make sure you keep your software and your computer updated. Now, what that means is if you're on a Microsoft system or using Microsoft Windows, or you're on the Apple system, using iOS, an Apple system, folks, the manufacturers will send updates on a regular basis, because the manufacturers, they are on top of all these new viruses that are coming out and new malware, and they want to make sure that their machines are working properly, because they made an obligation to you to support your particular piece of equipment. And by doing this, you need to make sure that you update, when you get these update messages, you update your systems and have the latest updates on your computer system. That's the first thing. Second thing, use antivirus software, folks. You can find any antivirus software that's out there in the marketplace. There are a lot of good ones that you could use. What antivirus software will do is, in the background, it will look for any suspicious information that is currently has been registered by cybersecurity researchers, and it will block those on your system. It will do their best to block them. Not everything's 100%, but these antivirus software programs can give you a sense of security to mitigate some of these different threats you'd have. So that would be the next thing you should do, folks. And these are just some little things. But the biggest thing you could do right now, folks, is to let all of your friends, relatives, and everybody you know that you've watched CyberSecurity Awareness TV, and tell them what you have heard on the show. And you go to my website, you go to our instant messenger or on our social media, on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and I want you guys to subscribe, like, and hit that notification button, and let everybody know about what's going on in cybersecurity awareness and how you can protect yourselves from these types of cyber crimes. So, folks, if you'd like to send me an email, you could also send me an email at mjackson@mjcc.com, and I will take a look at your messages as well. Give me a call. My phone number, 702-868-0808. 702-868-0808, and talk to me about your cyber questions you would have as well, and how I can help you put together a plan of protecting yourself individually, as well as creating policies for your company, folks, and helping your employees become trained and aware of these type of cyber threats that can affect your business. So, folks, that's all we have for now. Stay cyber secure, stay cyber strong, and remember, folks, this is CyberSecurity Awareness TV. I'm your host, Mac Jackson. We will see you next week with more news on Cyber News. Thank you.
you.